Built when the Roman Empire was at its peak in 80 AD, the Coliseum represents Rome at its grandest. Its real name was the Flavian Amphitheater, an arena for gladiator contests and public spectacles. When killing became a spectator sport, the Romans wanted to share the fun with as many people as possible, so they stuck two semicircular theaters together to create a freestanding amphitheater, the biggest in the empire. The sheer size of the Colosseum is impressive, even in our era of domed stadiums. With 4 oversized stories, it's 160 feet high, nearly a third of a mile around, and it makes an oval-shaped footprint that covers 6 acres. Imagine the Colosseum in its glory days. The whole thing was a brilliant white, highlighted with brightly painted trim. Monumental statues of Greek and Roman gods, also painted in bright colors, stood in the arches of the 2 middle stories: Zeus, Venus, Hercules. The top of the structure was studded with wooden beams sticking straight up, designed to hold an awning that shaded the spectators inside. The stadium could accommodate 50,000 roaring fans. That's 100,000 thumbs. As Romans arrived for the games, they'd be greeted outside by a huge bronze statue of the Emperor Nero, 100 feet tall, gleaming in the sunlight, standing where the cypress trees stand today, between the Coliseum and the metro stop. Though the Colosseum is massive, it looks light and airy. The 3 lower stories are nothing but open arches framed by half columns. The arches are stacked right on top of each other, and all the columns line up as well, drawing your eye upward. Meanwhile, each story forms a horizontal band that wraps all around the structure. This combination of horizontal and vertical lines makes the Colosseum appear firmly planted on the ground while reaching for the sky. Of the 250 or so amphitheaters in the Roman Empire, the Colosseum was the granddaddy of them all, the biggest and most famous, with all the top-notch gladiators. Out-of-town visitors would marvel at it, the biggest man-made structure they'd ever seen. Over time, the Flavian Amphitheater acquired a nickname, perhaps from the colossal statue of Nero that stood outside, or maybe just because the building itself was so darn colossal, the wonder of its age. It became the Coliseum. The Colosseum was started around 72 AD under the emperors of the Flavian family. Vespasian broke ground on it, his son Titus inaugurated it, and his younger son Domitian finished it. It took less than 10 years, which is impressive considering the size of the project. To start, they had to drain a lake here in this valley between 3 hills. Next, they sunk concrete foundations 40 feet deep. Then they brought the stone here from Tivoli. 200 ox-drawn wagons shuttling back and forth every day for 4 years. The exterior is a skeleton made of heavy blocks of travertine, a hard white stone like marble. The Romans pioneered the use of the rounded arch, which is how they could build on this tremendous scale. Well, having unlimited slave power didn't hurt either. Look at the arches on the ground level, made out of travertine blocks. Workers erected temporary scaffolding out of wood into the shape of an arch, then they stacked the blocks without using mortar. When they got near the top, they wedged an inverted stone, the keystone, into the peak of the arch. Then, when they removed the scaffolding, bravissimo! Not only didn't the arch collapse, it could bear even more weight above it. Check out the massive pillars that formed the exterior frame of the structure. Notice the holes that pockmark the exterior. This is where big iron brackets were once driven in, stapling the larger stones together. Each of the pillars flanking the ground-level arches weighs 5 tons, and all in all they used 3.5 million cubic feet of travertine. When it was finished, the Colosseum made a political statement. It trumpeted Rome's victory over rebellious Jews in Palestine in 70 AD. Booty and slaves from that campaign helped build the place. Also, having been erected on the former site of Emperor Nero's Golden House, the Colosseum symbolized how that hated emperor's private land was now reclaimed for the public good. The Colosseum is a marvel of engineering, ingeniously playing one architectural force off another. It's a testament to how the enlightened Romans could conquer their barbarian neighbors not just by brute military force, but by brain power. 50,000 fans looked down on the playing surface, shaped like an ellipse and lined up on an east-west axis. The arena is big, not quite long enough or wide enough to play modern football or soccer on, but close. Overhead, the entire stadium could be covered with an enormous canvas awning that was hoisted across by armies of sailors to provide shade for spectators. The first dome stadium. If you're having trouble picturing the playing surface itself, that's because the original arena floor is missing. What we see today are the underground passages beneath the playing surface. More on that a bit later. Originally, the arena was covered with boards and then sprinkled with sand, 9 inches deep. In fact, the Latin word for sand is arena. Looking back down, the elliptical-shaped arena is 280 feet long and 165 feet wide. The ratio of length to width is 5:3, often called the golden ratio. Since the days of the Greek mathematician Pythagoras, artists considered that proportion to be ideal, with almost mystical properties. The Colosseum's architects apparently wanted their structure to embody the perfect 3x5 mathematical order they thought existed in nature.